Right now at 6, new details on a murder-suicide that left 3 people dead, and court records from months ago that raise some tough questions.
Where are we going wrong? We're not protecting the people that need protection anymore.
Plus, new pardons from the president when it comes to marijuana. But does the move go far enough?
Really, federal expungement bills are what's needed.
And getting into the spirit of giving.
And that's a great feeling to know that you're doing something to help other people out.
Meet the local volunteers making sure everybody has food on the table. Good evening, everyone. We begin at 6 with more on that murder-suicide that took the lives of 2 people and a family dog before the killer, authorities say, turned that gun on himself. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko. Tonight we have learned that last year, one of the victims had tried to get a restraining order against the suspect, her estranged husband. Tim Gordon is here now with those details. Tim?
Yeah, David, the request for a restraining order was unsuccessful. Court paperwork shows Diane Saros and her husband Lawrence Peters were going through a long and difficult divorce as they tried to separate assets, including their home. In July of last year, Saros felt threatened enough to file for that restraining order against Peters, but the judge said no.
A terrible situation played out on Wednesday with law enforcement in 2 counties dealing with what they determined was a murder-suicide. At a home near Boring in Multnomah County, they found the bodies of 43-year-old Diane Saros and 46-year-old Brian Rowland, along with a dog, all of them shot and killed. Later, Clackamas County deputies tried to make a traffic stop of 54-year-old Lawrence Peters, who took off and eventually shot himself inside his vehicle. But it appears the trouble goes back to at least last year. Court paperwork shows on July 5th of 2022, a petition for a restraining order to prevent abuse was filed by Diane Saros in Clackamas County. She was asking that her husband stay at least 150 feet away from her, not contact her, move out of the house they own together in Damascus, and be prohibited from buying or possessing firearms. The petition was denied by Clackamas County Judge Yolanda Watkins.
For the courts not to listen to the cries of victims is just ludicrous.
Michelle Bart has been a victims advocate for 15 years as founder and president of the National Women's Coalition Against Violence and Exploitation. She is not pleased with the judge's denial.
They go through a lot to fill those out, and then only to be rejected by the judge, a female judge no less. Where are we going wrong? We're not protecting the people that need protection anymore.
KGW is still working to learn the context in which the judge denied the restraining order, what evidence or information was or was not presented to her. Just that in the denial, she checked the box stating petitioner did not establish a claim of relief. Regardless, Bart says there is a problem with a system that too often doesn't take victims' concerns seriously. In this case, would it have been a lifesaver?
We'll never know if a protective order would have slowed his progression down. We'll never know why the court decided to do this. And unfortunately, individuals that are taking the lives of others, they have an agenda. And they'll, they're going to do whatever it takes. And then killing themselves is not a surprise anymore.
Bart's organization actually helped in this case to arrange a therapy dog for the 19-year-old surviving son of Diane Saros. And by the way, we did reach out to the judge in this case to try and get that context. So far, we've not heard back from her or her office. David?
Yeah, Tim Gordon with the update tonight. Thank you, Tim. In your headlines this evening, a lumber facility in Hood River is in ruins after a massive 2-alarm blaze tore through the complex early this morning. A viewer sent us this video of the fire along Frankton Road. Wow, incredible pictures here. Hood River fire officials say multiple people called 911 after about 2 a.m., saying the fire was not only huge, but spreading quickly.
I couldn't quite figure out exactly what was going on, and I sat up and I looked outside and I just saw this massive inferno across the street, and it was the most terrifying thing I think I've seen in a long time.
Wow, crews say it spread to multiple buildings and they had to call in other departments to help out. One home nearby was also evacuated. Nobody was injured, but no word yet on the cause. 2 inmates in the Washington County Jail are recovering after the sheriff's office says they overdosed on fentanyl. Officials say the 2 men were found Wednesday afternoon unresponsive and not breathing in the rec area. The 2 were revived with naloxone and taken to the hospital. Deputies say they found suspected fentanyl pills on one of those men. The investigation there is ongoing. We are getting an updated look at just how many students and teachers have missed school this weekend in Portland Public Schools. This week was supposed to be the first half of winter break, but holidays were turned into school days after the teachers' strike. On Monday, just over 9,000 students missed school, and that number increased to more than 13,000 out yesterday. That's about 1 in 3. You can see teacher outages followed a similar trend, 597 out on Monday. By Thursday, that number had climbed to nearly 800, more than 1 in 5 teachers out of school. Today's attendance numbers have not yet been released. And you know what? It's been a bit of a rough day for Nike stock following its announcement to potentially lay off employees. Shares dropped some 12% today, according to MarketWatch. That is the largest single-day drop since 1997. This all stems from Nike's plans to cut $2 billion over the next 3 years as part of a major restructuring. It could mean laying off workers, though it is unclear how many. The last round of widespread job cuts happened in 2020 when Nike laid off about 700 people. Matt?
Thanks, David. Yep, we've got ourselves a clearing sky tonight after the rain that we had during the day today. It's looking pretty good in Portland. 42 degrees. It'll be a cold night. The wind is calm. With the recent rainfall, that all conspires to lead to a really good chance of getting fog overnight tonight and tomorrow morning. We have a secret weapon, though, to blow the fog out. We'll talk about that in a minute. Meanwhile, up in the Cascades, still a few snowflakes in the air here. You can see a part of the lens, of course, is iced over, but there are still some snowflakes falling up at Timberline where the temperature has dropped down to 22 degrees. It's been about 2 inches of new snow, maybe reap another inch or 2 out of this before it all winds down later on tonight up in the Cascades. There is snow in the passes, so be aware of that if you're heading out tonight or tomorrow morning, but I'm sure the road crews will have that handled pretty well. So on Doppler radar, yeah, there are still a few rain showers upstream from us up over the Coast Range and even offshore a little bit, but the showers really be winding down quickly tonight. So we're just about done with the precipitation. We will be by later on tonight, and that sets the stage for that fog to form. But the secret weapon is the east wind. That returns tomorrow. That'll blow the fog out. We get a dry day on Saturday, and then we're watching the potential for snow and freezing rain in the gorge Sunday night into Monday, and then again Monday night and into Tuesday. So we'll be watching that carefully, even though no strong storms are on the way next week, David.
Yeah, that's good news for holiday travelers. Thanks so much, Matt. Tonight, a new report from the Multnomah County Auditor is once again putting a spotlight on major failings at county jails following a year of deaths within their facilities. Our Sydney Dorner spoke with the auditor today. Sydney, what'd you learn?
David, in the original audit a year ago, the Multnomah County Auditor found county jails have significantly poorer conditions for mentally ill inmates, disproportionate rates of Black inmates receiving write-ups, and inconsistencies on where inmates are placed. She gave 13 recommendations, and of those, only 2 have been implemented, and 4 of them have been outright ignored. Auditor Jennifer McGurk says deputies use isolation and physical force as ways to deal with mentally ill inmates, which can further deteriorate their health. Since 2022, 10 people have died in jail, with 3 being suicides. She isn't sure of the exact cause for the sharp rise in deaths, but knows staffing is an ongoing issue.
For someone who is incarcerated, we don't want them to come out less able to interact with other people. And particularly if someone has a history of mental health conditions, it's much more harmful for them to be isolated. It can deteriorate their mental health.
The Sheriff's Office has made progress and says it's in the process of implementing 9 of the 13 recommendations. MCSO now has more space for mentally ill inmates and increased mental health training for staff. They've also made it a requirement to have mental health staff present when moving an inmate struggling with their mental health. They also hired a workplace equity and training specialist who has been looking into how officers interact with people in custody. Also in their letter, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office says they are committed to a transparent process of evaluation and recommendations for maintaining industry standards and evolving best practices, saying they look forward to continuing to work together on future audit projects. Back to you, David.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts and a lot of lingering questions. Thank you, Sydney. In national headlines tonight, President Biden is pardoning some people convicted of using or possessing marijuana in a move that builds on a proclamation he issued 1 year ago. Ashley Grams is in the newsroom with the details. Ashley, what is the local impact here?
Right, David, the president making another effort to correct what he calls a failed approach to marijuana. The pardon focuses on simple possession and use of marijuana under federal law. The president also reduced prison sentences for 11 people convicted of nonviolent drug offenses. This comes just over a year after a similar pardon was issued by former Governor Kate Brown here in Oregon. In November of 2022, Brown pardoned over 45,000 state convictions related to the possession of 1 ounce or less of marijuana. While cannabis is legal in Oregon and over 20 other states, the federal government still considers marijuana a Schedule I drug. Melissa Rodriguez works for Nimble, a marijuana distributor here in town. She says a presidential pardon like this is just the first step toward true reform.
There aren't a lot of folks who are currently probably being arrested for possession, right? But your record is haunting you if you have been. It's preventing you from, employment opportunities, from equal access to housing. And so expungement is really important. It's important across the country.
Now, it's not clear yet how many people will be impacted by this pardon. President Biden is also urging governors across the nation to follow suit and pardon their state marijuana charges. David?
Thank you, Ashley. You're watching KGW News. Straight ahead on this Friday night, meet the volunteers who are serving up the Christmas spirit to neighbors in need. Plus, the rush is on to get home for the holidays. A look at the highways and flyways and your Christmas forecast.
Coming up next on The Story, something you're only going to see at 6:30, what some are calling the future of flight as we know it. Take a look at this footage from inside the cockpit of a Cessna Caravan. Notice anything? Not a soul in sight. That's right, unmanned flight. There's nobody on the entire plane. And it successfully taxied, took off, flew, landed, and taxied back into place, all controlled from 50 miles away. Autonomous aviation, how far away is it? That's tonight at 6:30 on The Story.